All right, I think we're live. All right, there we go. All right, welcome in everybody. Happy day before Thanksgiving. We got that big 4-day weekend coming up. I got 4 days off in a row here. I'm sure a lot of other folks do too. Here in the United States, that is. All right, so what's going on, Theodore? Hey. Peter, Danny. Wow, a lot of folks already kind of waiting. Cool. All right, we're going to be working on some string bending today and vibrato. Real important if you want to play lead guitar, whether you're doing country, rock, blues, metal. Got to do some good string bends and vibrato. Jazz guitar does a little vibrato as well, but they don't really bend strings that much. But the other four styles, genres I just mentioned certainly do. So there we go. Hey, Roland's here. Cool. All right. Good job. Scott, all right. Russ, Steve, all right, cool. People from all over the place. All right, good deal. So string bending, think about this. Can anyone name a song that doesn't have string bends in the solo? There's not many, right? I mean, Johnny B. Good, you've got the string bends in there. Okay, that's old classic stuff. Pretty much every blues song does, right? Some of the most popular classic rock tunes too. Stairway to Heaven, of course. String bends right off the top of the solo. One more time. So you get the idea, all right? Hotel California is another one. Hey, what's up, Ryan? Cool, Ryan. All right. Yeah, I know I saw your name pop up here a couple week ago or the week before that. Rui's here too. Some of the usual suspects. Another great tune with a boatload of string bending is the solo for Hotel California. Now, I would highly recommend if you're just kind of getting into lead guitar playing and you want to develop your string bending. Well, of course, what I'm going to show you here will give you some good pointers and get you in the right direction. But I highly advise everybody to check out the solo for Hotel California. It's on the Guitar Trick site. One of our other instructors, Anders, does a kick butt job teaching that. He's got all the guitar parts. But you know how the beginning of it, just in those first couple solos, the Don Felder solo and then the Joe Walsh, there's a lot of string bends. Not there. That's Don's part. Ton of string bends in there. You saw me when I'm pushing the strings up, right? And then Joe Walsh. And then what we got? Okay, etc. So the string bends are when you grab a note and you push the string up to the floor most often. Sometimes you can yank it down too. But when you do that, when you push it up, we're going to talk about how to shake it with the vibrato in a little bit too. But first off, let's just focus on getting some ideas for the string bends. Okay, let me just pop in and see what everyone's saying here. Zane, cool, sounding good. Thank you, Zane. Appreciate it. Northern Nevada's here with King 50. Cool. Rad Flying V. Yeah. All right. Kyle from Ohio. Cool, man. And Second Chance Band. Cool. Marianne. All right. Hey, Marion, one of my neighbors across the street, him and his wife used to live in Connecticut. And when he watches my YouTube class occasionally, and he heard me talking to you, mentioning your band, and you're in Connecticut. So he kind of looked you up and checked out your band over there, even though they're living out here in Phoenix, Arizona right now. But Connecticut's a small state. I know there's a lot of people there, but yeah, he checked out your band on the internet anyway. So cool. You never know when advertising will come into play. All right, Theodore, right. How do you read the TA on rock metal guitar backing track? I'm not sure what you're asking, Theodore. Maybe you can clarify it. The TA, I'm not sure. Did you forget a letter or something? And I don't have a backing track. We don't have a backing track for what I'm doing in these lead guitar sessions. You can really just practice the stuff over any backing track. Rama, all right. Yep. From Cali, but in northern MA. All right. Cool. Good deal. And then Theodore, yep. Oh, tab. How do you read the tab on rock metal guitar backing track? I'm not sure what you mean by the backing track, because I don't have a backing track in any of this, what we're doing the last few days, last week, and in the next 3 weeks after tonight. No backing track, but you can really play them over any of them, Theodore. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure what that is. Rama's there. Second Chance Marianne's in the band. I hope he liked what he saw. 4 members from all for my family. All right. A modern day Partridge Family. Right on. Yeah. Cool. Well, I did not know that, Marianne, that the rest of your band was family members. Cool. Hang on one second. A little bit. Sometimes when we do string bends, they go out of tune. Okay, it's good to have a tuner. Close enough for rock and roll. All right, so also too, if you're into string bending, it helps to do it on electric guitar. If you got an acoustic, it's going to be kind of hard because the strings are generally thicker and they're a little bit higher action. So usually acoustic guitar players don't bend the strings. So I'm going to be kind of referencing more to the electric guitar layout. And on the electric guitar, some players like to use light gauge strings. That would be like a 10 to a 46. 0.010 is the 10 gauge for the high E and 0.046 for the low E. But they're a little thicker. I like to go a little bit lighter. I go to the extra lights, 0.009 to 0.042. My high E is a 9 gauge string. The low E is a 0.042. Okay. They usually, just without saying all that, 0.009, they just call it a 9 gauge string. Okay. The extra light strings still sound really good, and they're a lot easier to bend than the 10s. Okay. And I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. Billy Gibbons uses pretty light strings. I've read even that he goes as light as 7s or 8 gauge strings. I don't recommend going that light, but 9s are a good middle of the road that are pretty easy to bend on. I know Eric Clapton uses pretty light strings as well. Ed Van Halen, same thing. Used from what my research was that most of the time he had 9 gauge strings on his guitars. They're just a good middle of the road where they still sound good. They're not too flappy, and they're easy to bend, especially if you're doing a lot of string bends. You want to make it easy on yourself and let your guitar and your amp and your effects do the work. Okay. Popping into the comments here real quick, folks. Cool. Theodore's saying he's following on Guitar Tricks. I have following Guitar Tricks. All right, cool. Kyle saying, can you display a good lick? He says luck, but I think lick from Aeolian mode for. Well, heck, the Aeolian. Well, there's a good one right there, and then the Aeolian. Just playing a classic lick that we're going to actually look at down the bottom. It's the blues lick. But then we'll add in this note, which is not in the pentatonic scale, but it's part of the Aeolian there. You could even kind of do a hybrid where you mix the Aeolian and the blues scale. Who's asking that one? Kyle Roberts. Then the blues note. Kind of like a Randy Rhoads idea. Okay, cool. Let me kind of keep on track here. Rad Flying V saying, yep, he agrees or confirms that Billy Gibbons uses 7-gauge strings. I'm not sure if he does it all the time, but I've read that he does. Yep. Oh, Rama saying Angus from AC/DC uses light strings. Yep. Cool, Marianne, Second Chance Band. She says on her Strat she uses Fender Super Bullets lights. Cool. All right. So are the lights? Typically lights are a 10-gauge string. Is that what you got, Marianne, on the Strat? And then Steve in New Hampshire saying Billy Gibbons once said that B.B. King. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. That story's a great one, Steve. I'll kind of expand on that real quick because it ties in with our string bending, everybody. Billy Gibbons once said that B.B. King talked him into lighter strings after he tried his guitar. Because I believe the story's something like this, where B.B. King played Billy Gibbons' guitar and said, hey, why are you working so hard? Because at that time, Billy Gibbons was using thicker strings, probably lights. And B.B. King also uses extra light strings, right? So he said, why are you working so hard? Why don't you step down to lighter strings? They still sound great. Okay. And that's kind of how Billy got hooked on going to the lighter gauge strings. Good little story there. Yep. Rui saying Tony Iommi because of his accident at work. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Billy, Tony Iommi and Sabbath. He's missing the tips of his fretting hand, 2 middle fingers. Not that is the reason why he uses the extra light strings, but I'm sure it has a little bit to do with that. Definitely. Extra light strings on your acoustic too? Well, on the acoustic, I actually have light gauge string, or I have extra light acoustics. Who's asking that one? Russ is. On my acoustic, I have extra light acoustic strings, which the high E is a 10, the low E, I think, is like a 50 or 52. So they're sort of like light gauge strings on electric, extra light on acoustic. All right. But I don't really want to go much lighter than the 10s because acoustics sound good with a little bit thicker strings. They're a little bit louder and they have a better tone. But we can make up for some of the tone loss on our electrics by having, a good solid body guitar, having good pickups, having a nice amp that's got a great tone to it, and you can always turn the volume up a little bit. And you got a bunch of effects too. Oh, there you go, Marianne. All right, so on your Strat, you use 9-gauge strings. Cool. So Kyle's saying I can't use anything larger than a 10-gauge on my Fender Strat plus Deluxe. Yep. Yeah, the Fender's guitars, the scale length's a little bit longer. The necks are about, from the bridge to the nut, folks, is about 3/4 of an inch longer than it is on a Gibson. I think a Gibson, if I'm correct, is like 24 3/4 of an inch from the bridge saddle to the nut. And on a Strat, from the bridge saddle to the nut, I believe is 25.5. So that's about 3/4 of an inch longer. So consequently, whatever your string gauge is on like a Gibson guitar, if you put the same gauge on your Fender Strat or Telecaster, it's going to feel a little tighter because they have to be tuned a little tighter to get up to the pitch. So just something to notice when you switch from between Fenders and Gibson guitars. The Gibsons, a lot of folks also mention that they like the comfortness and the sort of the sponginess and the easiness of playing a 335 or Les Paul. And that partly due because of the scale lengths just a little bit shorter. Okay, good deal. And Ram is saying by going with lighter strings, you lose low end beefy a little bit. You do, Rama. Yep. So you just gotta. It depends on what you're playing. If someone's doing a lot of drop tunings, you probably want to have a really thick string on your low E, maybe a couple of maybe even the A string kind of thick, a little bit thicker than normal. But it just depends what you're doing. If you're not doing a bunch of drop D tunings, then you don't need to really necessarily think about too thick on the bass. Kyle's saying didn't like 9. Cool, Kyle. Yep, everybody's got their preferences. Yeah, so you just kind of find what works for you and go with that. Okay, so let's get into the string bending, folks. The very first example, it starts with 8 on the second string, and we're going to bend that note. We're going to push it up a whole step. You see the word full over the arrowhead? Okay, full in music means a full step. And in guitar, what that equals is 2 frets higher than the note you're on. So if I'm bending the 8th fret on the second string, 2 frets higher would be the 10. I got to make the 8 sound like the 10. And check out how the lick goes. The very next note after we bend it up is 5 on the first string. That's actually the same note as the 10. So I did this on purpose because you want to make sure you bend in tune. So when you bend that 8 up and then play the 5, you want to hear them both sound the same. You don't want to underbend. Okay, I hear sometimes guitarists do that, and it kind of sounds out of tune. We don't want to sound out of tune. Or if they overbend. Okay, that sounds a little silly too. So you want to go try to find the right note. And this is good ear training. Okay, we're all musicians here, right? We're all guitar players or trying to be guitar players. Got to develop your ear. Music's about hearing. We don't see the notes, we hear the notes. So you need to use your ear to tell you when you've arrived at your destination. Okay, so what we're going to do on that first lick, and these are cool licks you can rip off, you can put into a solo. And then we bend the 8 again twice. And at the end of that second bend of the 8 right there at the end, you see that little wavy line over it? That's the vibrato symbol. That means we're going to try to shake the note. Okay? So first step, though, folks, is just make sure you're in tune. Not just in tune with the tuner, but when you bend your note, that you're bending in tune. Okay, that's the most important thing, is get that note in tune. Okay? And you don't want to be flat. It doesn't sound right. You don't want that either. You want to be in tune. Okay? And a little bit icing on the cake, and I'll talk to you about this a little bit more tonight, is add some vibrato. So once you get the bend up there, try to shake it. Okay? Okay? All kinds of ways you can shake it. You can actually rock the guitar neck up and down. Some guitars do that. Okay, some just rotate their wrists like this, like you're kind of pivoting off that knuckle where the index finger connects to your hand. That's the fulcrum point under the guitar at the bottom, okay? And then I just kind of pivot off of that. I'm kind of doing that. See how it's kind of rocking it back and forth? Okay, now take some practice too. Vibrato is very elusive. It's one of those things that you got to practice, you got to work on it, and we want to try to get it to sound good. Usually it's in time, it pulses with the tempo of the song. Either it pulses as 8th notes or triplets or 16th notes, some subdivision of the beat that's in time with the beat. And when I've transcribed solos from players, guitar players, a lot of times on fast parts, I'll have to slow it down to maybe 75 or 50%. And at that slower speed, you can really hear when the guitar player vibratos, how the vibratos wave up and down. It's in time with the song. Okay, it's really important to feel your song. So if you're, say if our metronome is going like this, let me get that going here real quick. I'll do 100 beats a minute. So there's the click. So see how I'm shaking it in time? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? Or maybe I can go a little quicker. That was 3 per beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, da 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 da. Our eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I mentioned some players that got great vibrato, Ace Frehley and Kiss, the old Kiss stuff. You can hear some really tasty vibrato in his playing. Obviously, Ed Van Halen and Yngwie Malmsteen. A lot of the blues players, they all got great vibrato too. It's not about, vibrato is not really about playing fast. You can use vibrato in anything. And it really sounds good too, folks, when you're playing like a slow ballad, to have a really good, sweet, smooth vibrato. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, the first half of example 1 is this. Okay, and then the second half of that is moving over to the 3rd string. And by the way, everything today we're going to do is based out of the 5th fret A pentatonic and the A natural minor, or A Aeolian, as one of the folks watching was talking about earlier tonight. And all these scales are available in Guitar Tricks. We've got a ton of lessons on them. And they also have a scale finder. So you can find in that, you just plug in the key you want and the name of the scale. That, in this case, a minor pentatonic, key of A, or natural minor scale, or Aeolian scale, as one of the folks was saying, key of A. And it populates the guitar neck with all the patterns. There's usually 5 patterns that cover the fretboard in any given scale pattern or in any given key. On there, you would have a good way of practicing the scales once you see them on the neck diagram. Okay. Plus, if you study with me, take lessons with me online, I've got information, curriculum for all that, some great exercises, and we can go deep in it as well. Okay. So on the 3rd string here, folks, second half of that first example, we're doing the same kind of bend idea, but it's with 7th fret 3rd string. Bend that a whole step. And then I grab the 5th fret on the 2nd string, which is the same note as bending the 7 up a whole step from 7 to 9. You want it to sound like that. And then that 5 is the same note, so it's a good ear training. And then we bend the 7 twice. Vibrato. So we got okay, simple stuff, but that's the idea. Okay, now let's move on to the second example. This is a little more kind of a minor blues, kind of a Dorian sound. Look at that 7 there. That's a half. You see above the arrow tip on example 2, the 7s, it says half. A half step in guitar is 1 fret higher. So if we're going to bend the 7 a half step, we want to go up to the 8. So we want to go. Now you could play that lick with your index and pinky, and then bend with your 3rd back to the 5. Okay, this also sounds kind of bluesy. Okay, or you could do your 3rd finger and then bend with your 2nd. I like to do that, but it's up to you. Depends on the fingering that works better for you. Okay, let me take a little peep out to the comments here. Yeah, Angus Young, vibrato master. Yep. And then Second Chance Band, Marianne saying her favorite vibrato is the B.B. King style. Exactly. I'm going to get into that. Right now we're talking about vibrato on the bent note. But in this next example 2, we've got vibrato on not bent notes that are not bent. Okay. So at the end of that first part, okay, so let's talk about that B.B. King vibrato for a sec. Okay, if you're not bending a note, you can vibrato with any finger. Okay, and you don't worry about trying to push it up to a specific note. All we're generally doing with vibrato is slightly bending it sharp and letting it back down to neutral. You want to make sure you kind of hover around that note. And just rock it. Just try to get a nice vocal quality with the vibrato, okay? We don't want to be nervous, okay, where it's all uncontrolled and erratic and sounds like a nervous bee. We want it to sound smooth. Think how when you hear a singer singing the national anthem, for instance, at a sporting event, or any really good singer who's got a good vibrato, like Bruce Dickinson and Iron Maiden. All right, I'm going to juxtapose with that, with the national anthem vibrato, which all kinds of people have sung that, and you've got vibrato peppered all the way through that song, okay? Where they hold a note, and then they start shaking it, kind of floating a little above and a little below the correct pitch. Well, on guitar, when we're just doing a standard note, not bent, we can't really vibrato a hair flat because we're on the note. All we can do is really go up, okay? So generally the vibrato B.B. King style is you shake it and you go upwards with it. If you're on the first string. Of course, if you're on the second string, you can go down too. Just a little bit, but you always want to keep it even and in time. And see how I'm always anchoring my hand on the guitar? That's B.B. King's thing. Okay. Some folks, though, like Eric Clapton, you'll see him, he almost lets go of the guitar. And you see him do this kind of thing. Okay. I'm not really good with that. I don't practice that way. It's okay. Most guitar players find their vibrato that works for them, and then they stick with it. Okay. The important thing is not what it looks like, but what it sounds like. Okay. So if you're doing it the Eric Clapton way, where you let go of your guitar and you do that, that's fine if that works for you. Okay. To me, that's a little uncontrolled, and I'm more in control when I'm actually gripping the neck and just letting it rock back and forth. And you should actually practice this with all the fingers. Okay. And then I keep seeing more comments shoot down. Let me just read those real quick. Cool, Rui for B.B. King. Yep. B.B. King's the best example. Listen, a lot of folks are saying B.B. King. So everyone else that's here wanting to develop your vibrato, check out some videos of B.B. King. See if you can see his vibrato. Okay. Listen to songs from B.B. King and see if you can hear the vibrato on his notes. Okay. That's a really good thing to do, is do some homework studying, not just playing guitar, but also I don't want you to get too sucked into the rabbit hole of the internet where we end up watching videos all day long and not playing guitar. Watch him for like a minute or two, shut it off, and then try to emulate it on your guitar. Spend a half hour trying to get your vibrato down. Okay. Ever do jazz style sideways vibrato? Yeah, I was going to talk about that too. I recommend Rad Flying V. I'll go over that in 2 secs. I recommend the video he jams along with John Mayer here on YouTube. Cool. Yep. Rui. That's something. John Mayer, another great player too. Yeah. Watch all these players vibrato. Not just the blues guys, but Joe Satriani's got great vibrato. Steve Vai's got an interesting vibrato too, where he kind of goes in this circular motion. When I was going to music school back in 1985, Musicians Institute, a.k.a. Guitar Institute of Technology in Hollywood, California, Steve Vai did a clinic there. And when he did his clinic, this was before he was famous. Well, had played with Frank Zappa, but it was before he was hugely famous. He had just got the gig with Alcatraz, if you remember them. They were kind of a heavy metal band. Yngwie Malmsteen was the guitarist in Alcatraz. he quit or got kicked out or whatever, Steve Vai filled his shoes. So Steve Vai was kind of excited about that. And at the seminar, he was playing some of his own instrumentals and talking about different techniques that he does. One of them was his vibrato. And he does this circular thing where he kind of combines a little bit of the classical vibrato, which is generally left and right. See, if you watch nylon string players, they usually don't go up and down. They usually go like this. Kind of like Rad Flying V was mentioning about the jazz styles. See, in jazz, they don't do this crazy super wide vibrato. They generally have a little softer, smoother. And you can get that kind of by just doing the back and forth. And when I do the classical vibrato, I do let go of the guitar neck. You might want to try that for a little bit. Okay. And we can vibrato with the pinky. Probably not going to do that too often, but it's good to practice trying to do all your fingers. Okay. Now, the circular vibrato that Steve Vai did was kind of like a combination of left and right. See, on the left and right, though, you don't really hear the note change as much as you do when you do the B.B. King style. Steve's trying to do both. And it kind of looks, if you watch some videos of him sometimes, you'll see his finger. He just has one finger on it. And it looks like he's kind of massaging that note in a circular fashion. Okay. Again, I don't practice that vibrato. I'm not really good at it. I just got the one I like, which is what I do. I can pull it down or I can push it up. Okay. Practice both ways there. Okay. All right. Good comments, folks. Keep them coming in, man. All right. So the second half of example 2, I'm going to move quick here so we can finish the page. Second half goes, here we're doing a different type of string bend. Okay. This one, we're going to bend it up 7 on the first string and let it down. You know what? My bad, folks. That 7 should say half step above it, not a full bend. Full bend is actually not a good note. It's out of tune. It's out of key. Yeah, the half sounds better because we want to go up to the G. See how the bends make it sound a little smoother too. If you were to play the lick, 8, 7, 5. Cool lick, doesn't sound bad, but this bend gives it a nice little touch. It mixes things up. It's nice to know many techniques like hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, vibrato, string bends, all the different types of string bends, half steps, whole steps, 1.5, 2 whole steps, over bending, even quarter step bending, where you, like in the blues, where they just bend it not even a half step, but instead of bending the 8 up to the 9, they'll bend up to like 8.5. It's flat. It's not quite the 9, the C sharp. See, it's about in between it. You hear that all day long in the blues. Where they just pull a little sharp. We've heard that so much, everybody. Technically those quarter steps are a little bit out of tune. Let me get a beverage here real quick. All right. So those quarter steps are a little bit out of tune, but we've heard it so much in the blues songs and some rock that we actually accept it as okay. And it's not just any note that you could bend a quarter step. It's in the blues and the rock applications. It's the minor third and it's the minor seventh. Okay, so if you know a little bit of theory, figure out where those are. But in your pentatonic scale, that minor third is the 8 on the first string. And it's also the minor 7 is the 8 on the second string. those same two notes are on the 3rd string, 5th fret, 4th string, 5th fret. You hear sometimes Clapton will do a little quick turnaround, or some of the blues guys. Very simple, but it sounds good. You got your minor 3rd, a little bit quarter step bend, then the flat 7, just a little sharp. Make sure you don't want to go up to the major 7, and then end on that. Okay, so example 2 altogether, folks, was this. Okay, sounds, that would work over an A minor chord and an A7, something like a classic rock bluesy thing. Okay, let's go down to example 3. Check out what the title of example 3 is. It's overbending. And that's a really kind of a broad term, but it's when guitar players, and it's fun to do, it's kind of exciting, they'll bend like super far. Jimmy Page does a gigundo bend in Stairway to Heaven. The first lick in Hotel California, Don Felder bends 1.5 steps. That's 3 frets higher. Then in the 12th fret up to the 15th. Just keep pushing the string up until you hear it's in tune. And hey, am I going to break a string doing this? I'll bet some of you are asking. You probably will. All right. Now, I've broken a lot of strings too over the years. Fortunately, the music stores, and you can get them online too, I've got a package of extra high E's, because that's the one we usually break the most, because it's the thinnest and it's one of the main bending strings. So I just get a pack of 9s. Usually they come in a pack of 10 strings, and I just buy a pack of them. And I like high E is the 9, so I buy a pack of 10 of the 9-gauge strings. In fact, one of my students yesterday said we just started doing some blues bending, and he broke a bunch of strings over between our last lessons and the one I had yesterday. It's usually too, when we first start learning to bend and really do it, we kind of overcompensate and maybe bend a little too hard, maybe push the finger to the fretboard too hard. As you get better on guitar, it does get easier once you know only how hard to press. All right, we don't want to overpress, because then we're wasting energy, and you could wear out your frets more that way, and you could break the strings. Okay. Well, conversely, you don't want to underpress either, because then you get notes that sound buzzy or don't even sound good. So after you've been playing a while, you start to find the little sweet spots where the comfortable zone, like how hard do I need to hold the pick? Well, just hard enough to keep it in your fingers, but sometimes we do need to press a little harder to dig in, you know. Or maybe we want to play a little softer. Okay, and then hold it a little bit lighter. So you just kind of develop this as you learn guitar and you get better. You just figure out how hard I need to do things or how soft I need to do things to get it to sound right. Same with bending the string. After a while, your muscle memory will know how much energy you need to exert to push out to get that note up there, and then use your ear to fine tune it. Okay, and we're gonna, example 4, I'll give you a cool exercise that'll help you with that too. Bouncing in, let me just read the comments again. SLM Maui, Elvin Bishop seemed to lean on vibrato when he playing guitar. Exactly, yeah. If Elian Bishop, you mean Elvin Bishop? Elvin Bishop used to play in with Paul Butterfield Blues Band and Michael Bloomfield. If that's who you're talking about, I know totally he's a great guitar player. But Elian Bishop, I'm not familiar with. But most good guitar players have a good vibrato, and they've developed it. And folks, I'll tell you, I just didn't just develop it overnight. I literally sat and worked on my vibrato for a while. You know, I'd spend 15 minutes just sitting doing this. Try it with another finger. You I worked on it with a metronome. I play backing tracks and try to play things and just worked on it. On the lower strings, obviously, you're going to need to pull the string down. You can't push it up. So you can go off the edge. On the high E, you can't pull it down because you're going to fall off the edge. So you got to push that up. Okay, so you work on all the different aspects. So that way, whenever you're anywhere on the guitar, you're ready. You know what you need to do for vibrato. If I'm on the 6th string, I know I need to yank it down. If I'm on the high E, I need to go upwards. Okay. So let's check out the overbending in example 3. Okay, this is a super cool blues lick. Again, it's in the key of A. This would be up in the B.B. King box territory. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is slide to 11 on the 3rd with your middle, 10 on the 2nd. Then we grab 13 on the 2nd string. We're going to bend that a whole step and then let it down, but not pick it. Okay. And then we bend the 13 again, but you see over the 2nd 13 going up, it's got a 2. That means 2 whole steps or 2 full steps. Remember, a full step is 2 frets. So 2 full steps would be 4 frets. My goodness. So we're going to bend the 13 up 4 frets would be 17. Wow. Will you break a string? You could. Especially if you're trying to do that on the high E, but the thicker strings, because they're thicker and they're not as tight, you could bend it further with less chance of it breaking. Not to say it won't break, but less chance of it breaking. So that licks goes. Very cool. You could even do this, folks. Instead of picking the 2nd 13, just go ahead. If you got the first one down, try to go whole step all the way down, 2 whole steps all the way down, and then resolve it. Usually you want to resolve to the root note of the key we're in, okay? And in this case, we're in A. There's your A. See how you can kind of work it in there? Okay, let's jump down to example 4. We've got unison bends. This is another type of bend where we're going to hold the 1st string, 5th fret, bend the 2nd string, 8th fret, and we're going to pick both strings at the same time. It sounds kind of bad. It's a major 2nd interval. Okay. Kind of sounds like the beginning of Helter Skelter from the Beatles. Not sure if that's exactly how they're doing it, but it sounds like that to me. Okay, we want to get those 2 notes, but we don't really want to let the listener hear that ugliness. What you want to do is bend the 2nd string up with your 3rd finger, and usually too, folks, when we string bend, you want to bend with 2 fingers, or 3 if you got it, but you almost never will you bend with 1 finger, okay? Because it feels uncontrolled and like the other strings feel like everything could pop out from under my finger. Okay, whenever I bend with my 3rd finger, which I do a lot of, I use the 2nd finger to help them. So it's like 2 big fingers together. If I'm bending with my 2nd finger, I use my 1st. Okay. So use 2 fingers, and if you bend with your pinky, of course, that's a weak finger. When I bend with my pinky, which is kind of rare, I always help it with the 3rd and even the 2nd. Sometimes I'll put all 4 and like this. Usually I don't bend with the pinky though, but if I do, that's what I do. I grip it with the other fingers behind it, okay? But for today, let's just work with bending with the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, okay, what we've been talking about. So on this unison bend one, folks, unison means They're the same, right? So what we want to do is get both notes, which don't sound the same, push the bend up till they do sound the same. And you know when you tune your guitar with the 5th fret, how you listen for that vibrating sound to go away as you raise or lower the pitch? Okay, that's what we're doing here. Use your ear. Okay, it's not about how far on the, what does it look like? I push it up to about the 3rd string or 4th or whatever. Don't do that. Use your ear. And when you hear the notes in tune, that's where you're at. Okay? What we can do to mask that is try to shake it when you get up there. Zakk Wylde does that kind of stuff a lot. Ace Frehley does in Kiss. Now, this is a neat little thing to do. We're going to essentially take that lick, that shape, and we're just going to keep the fingers on the same strings. I'm going to keep the same distance between them, okay? There's always 2 empty frets between the index and the 3rd finger. Then I'm going to move quickly up to the 8th fret, and 3rd finger will be on the 11th. I do it there, and then back to the 7th fret. So far you got this. Then I go 10, 8, and then 12, 10. And I vibrato them because it just makes it sound a little more cool. If we don't vibrato, doesn't sound bad, but listen to this. Okay, it's good ear training, and it's good for your trying to get control over your finger strength. I do that. I got this rock version of Pachelbel's Canon that I do, folks. I'll play this real quick for you. Let me see if I got my sound. Yeah, kind of start the song with the rock. Anyway, you get the idea. That part of the song when I'm doing this. Unison bends. It's kind of a neat little effect in there. It's a nice way of taking a simple melody and make it sound a little more aggressive. All right. Let me get back to the bluesy sound for what we're doing tonight, though. Okay, cool. All right. Quick, let me take a peek at the comments for a sec. Lewis, hey guys, should I get an iRig too? I'm not too certain on how they work with apps like ToneBridge. Wow, Lewis, I'm not familiar with that iRig, but maybe some of the other folks watching might know something about it. I use an Axe-Fx. I know they're not cheap, but they've got a ton of great sounds. I can make my own sounds, a bunch of great effects and whatnot. Oh, thanks, Rad Flying V. Yeah, appreciate it. We'll get into some more of that stuff in the future, but kind of focus on the bends here today. Kyle's saying, I invest in a portable Spark Mini positive grid before you get to try good tone. Yeah, I've heard good things about that, Kyle. And maybe Lewis, you can pay attention. That Spark amp, I don't have one myself, but a bunch of my students have them. And from what I hear out of them, and I think you can control some of it from your phone even. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Rui has one, works fine with GarageBand. Yeah, there you go. So Lewis, some of the comments are helping you out there. Good input there. Appreciate it, everybody. Pete saying, for the unison bend, do you still keep the high E fretted? Yes. See, that's the trick with that, is keeping both fingers down. And when I vibrato, I'm only vibrato in this note. It's going up and down, and this one's staying not vibrato. It's just staying. And since I'm doing the B.B. King kind of vibrato, see, the fulcrum point is right here. So that note that I'm holding doesn't even move really when I'm shaking the vibrato. See, that finger stays put. Cool. All right, good deal, guys. Appreciate you commenting and help Lewis out, helping a fellow guitar player. All right, let me rip through the last few here, folks, because these are really good too, and you got to know about these. We talked about vibrato, the up and down, left and right. I want to make sure I'm covering all the bases. All right, example 5. This lick right here, it's a pretty cool one, very common. I believe I've heard Kurt Hammett do that. I think Zakk Wylde does that too. There's a few Zakk Wylde songs too we have on Guitar Tricks. I forgot. Sleeping Dog is one of them that I did the lesson for. And then there's another one too that's pretty cool. It's a lot heavier, but that solo of the second one. Yeah, I've done a lot of songs with Guitar Tricks, and unfortunately I can't remember every single one of them that I've done. But anyway, so this lick is really cool to know. It starts with a bend on the 8th fret 2nd string, still in the key of A, everybody. And then after that bend, you play a quick little pull-off lick. 5 on the 1st string, 8 to 5 on the 2nd string with a pull-off. And I put the picking there for you because sometimes on the faster licks, if you don't pick it a certain way, it might be harder. It might be a little more awkward. And you might not be able to get it as fast as the potential is of the lick. So for me, what I like to do on that is I'll start with a down. And then the last part of it, the little triplet, I do a down and then up on the 2nd string pull off. And then I'm ready for my down and repeating it. So you see that lick is played 3 times. And then I end with a nice big vibrato and bend. Okay, that works nice. You could even do this, everybody. You could bend the 1st string and then play the same last 3 notes. And then on that one, I'm not even really bending it. You don't have to bend a whole step. Sounds kind of cool, a little more bluesy if you just do a 1/4 step bend if you're doing the 1st string. Just kind of work them together. Okay, and then moving down to example 6, string bend and release in a pull-off. This is another real common string bending lick. A lot of guitar players do this. When they bend a note on a given string, in this case we're 7 on the 3rd string, they'll let it down, then they'll pull off to the next note down in the scale on that same string. That's a very common move. You don't pick everything. You just pick the 1st note. It goes pick, bend it up, let the 7 down, and that 7 that's in parentheses means you hear it, but we don't pick it, and we pull off to the 5. And then we got 7 on string 4. Okay, so the lick goes, And it looks like we're going to play that 3 times. And then land on a high E at the 5th fret. Who have we heard do that? What is that song? Led Zeppelin. Whatever Jimmy Page does there. Heartbreaker. That's right. Yeah. So that lick Jimmy does right in there. I've heard Santana do that lick a lot. Everybody does it. Okay. And you don't necessarily have to repeat it. It's nice to have a repeating lick for the exercise purpose. But you could just do them once. You could play like the lick in example 5, then play the lick in example 6, and then end it. So you can go. That's how you write solos, folks, is you start sticking licks, together, and you have to experiment. You can't just put this lick with that lick and it's going to sound good. It might not sound good. So you got to try stuff and listen to it. If it does sound good, run with it. Try it over a backing track. See how the first lick, that one, then the one we just did. Okay, now let's try the last one here. Again, we're going to play the first notes, the first 5 notes of this lick. We're just going to repeat them 3 times, play them 3 times, and then end it on the root. Okay, so this one is another super common lick. I think I've heard almost every guitar player at some point in their catalog of solos they've recorded has done this lick. It goes. Okay. Ace Frehley does it a lot. Leonard Skinner is big time known for repeating licks. And a lot of these licks. Like Freebird, the way that solo starts, a lot of repeating licks in that solo. You could take any of these licks and throw them in there. Sounds, if you do it in the key of G up here, it kind of sound like you're doing Freebird licks. Okay, so we got this one in the key of A, 7th fret, 3rd string gets the full bend. And then 5 on the 2nd, 5 on the 1st, 8 on the 2nd, pull off to the 5th fret. And that's interesting lick because there's how many notes in it? There's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's kind of hard to count it in terms of the beat, like a triplet or 8th note, 16ths. I just have it written as 5 notes per beat, like a quintuplet. Quint means 5. Try to play all 5 notes evenly and repeat it. I think I've heard Jimmy Page do that. Everybody. Randy Rhoads does variations of that. Where he starts out with the lick, then adds in some other flavors. The Aeolian note, the blues note. Okay, so example 7, everybody. Is that when you want to pick it like this, and then we're wrapping it up. We're almost done, folks. You got to pick it. You don't have to, but what works for me, everyone, to get it fast is to do 3 downs. Down, 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 up on that pull off. And then you could take some of these string bending licks. How about this? Play the lick example 5 one time, example 7 lick one time, then example 6 lick one time. Stick them together. Watch this. There's example 5, here's example 7, and then here's example 6. Now, check out what it sounds like without me talking. One more time. Pretty cool. So get the licks under your fingers, take your time with them. And remember, I can help you in guitar lessons one-on-one on the internet. I got a lot of students all over the world, and I handle a lot of guitar trick students too. Reach out to me if you have any questions. You can find me on my website, davesilenttown.com. I'm on Guitar Tricks in the forum. You can write me there. Some students do that. You can also find me on Facebook and a few other YouTube. But reach out to me if you have any questions. I'd be glad to help you out, and maybe we could set up a lesson or two and get you going in the right direction, help you out with anything. Because these lessons here are really good that we're doing for Guitar Tricks is having me do these free for you guys. But I can't hear or see anyone what you're doing, so I can't really help you in that regard. So a one-on-one lesson would be really good. Anyway, enough of that stuff. Everyone have a great Thanksgiving. And I'm going to pull the plug here. Let's see what we got. Marianne, Second Chance Band, thank you. Appreciate it, Marianne. Happy Thanksgiving to you too and your family. And hope you stay safe and gig hard. Kesso, you're welcome. Roland, well, awesome. Glad you like it, Roland. We'll see you in a couple weeks there, buddy. Don't forget to unplug your tube, Screaming Roland. I forgot to tell you the other day, if you leave it plugged in, the battery will drain. Theodore, cool, you're welcome. Russ, you're welcome. Cool. Danny, yep. Thank you, Peter. Cool. King 50, appreciate it. Cool. Ken, yep. Radflying V, Scott, everyone. Wow. Zane, cool. Tyler, Steve, everybody. Yep. I appreciate the kudos, everyone. And next lesson, next Wednesday, we're going to work on week 3. It's going to be on speed picking and sweep picking. So working on your pick technique, how to get faster. Got some stuff for you on that. So join me and we'll take it by there. Everyone have a safe holiday. Be safe. We'll see you next Wednesday night. All right. Peace. See ya. Bye.